Hey everybody, my name is Alex, and on behalf of Copper State Credit Union, thank you for joining us tonight. We're so happy to have you all. I have a few items to review before we get started. Our session today is scheduled to last about 40 minutes. The recording of today's event will be sent out to you via email and will also be located on our website. Now, please take a moment to find your Zoom toolbar, likely at the bottom of your screen. We want you to be able to participate as much as possible during our session today, so we want everyone to be aware of the features available. Q&A. Please type your questions for the speaker here at any time throughout the session. You can click the anonymous button if you do not want your name attached to your question. If we send you any links during the session, you'll find these in chat. Lastly, I want to point out the polling feature. You should see a poll popping up here momentarily. Please respond so that we know a little bit more about our audience today. Thank you. Now, I'm excited to introduce our speaker, Christina Credit. Christina is Copper State Credit Union's Financial Wellness Program Manager. She's been with the credit union for 4 years and loves her current position. Christina has lived in the Valley for 9 years since moving from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She loves listening to audiobooks and enjoys camping with friends and family, as well as working in her garden. Financial fun fact about Christina, she uses a cash envelope system for managing her family's budget. Christina, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Alex, and hello, good evening, everyone. So happy to be here as usual, talking about finances and budget, especially with the theme that we have of do-it-yourself, budget cleanup. It is such a good season for it here in Phoenix or in Arizona. And before we jump in, I have so many cool budget cleanup tips to share with you this evening. But before we start, I just want to take a moment and make sure that everyone with us tonight knows who we are, who Copper State Credit Union is. So we are a local Arizona credit union. We're open for membership if you live, work, or worship in any of the counties that you see up there on the screen. We currently have 7 branch locations, plus a location at GCU. Over 40,000 members trust us to do their banking, and we offer, a variety of different accounts and loans, online banking, a mobile app. Copper State Credit Union was actually formed and created as a result of a merger between Deer Valley Credit Union and Canyon State Credit Union, and that was back in 2019. And then Southwest Healthcare Credit Union joined us in 2020. And that has really enabled us to become bigger, stronger, and still keep that excellent member service that comes with a small credit union. So we're really proud of that, and we're proud of who we are. Speaking of that, who we are, these are our core values. We value family. We value empowerment, excitement, and discovery. And if I had started our poll today with what words come to mind when you think of money, I don't know if you would have picked any of these words or not, but we certainly want to get you to a place where you think about, how your money provides for your family, how you can use your money to find that financial empowerment or discover new things, find excitement around that financial empowerment. So you can't tell, I'm very passionate about this topic. It is my job to provide financial education and information for all of you. And I'm really excited about today's topic. It's a fun one. Do-it-yourself budget cleanup. And here we are. Well, the way we're going to start today, I'm going to break it up into a few different groups. We're going to do some budget tidy ups that can happen in 10 minutes or less. Then we're going to go to about 30 minutes. And lastly, we're going to talk about some of those that, they take a little longer. It's going to take you a couple of hours, but there's something in here for everyone. I'm sure of it. And just curious, based on who we have with us today, I'm going to send out a poll to you. When it comes to budget spring cleaning, which of the tasks are you most likely to do? Just be honest, right? Are you all about the quick ones? Are you, willing to put in a little bit of time, about 30 minutes, or you're going for the big ones? See those votes coming in. Thank you. Looks like most people really like the 30-minute time slot. So that's good news, because you could do any of the 30-minute tips we have, but you could also do 3 of the 10-minute tips and get yourself to the same amount of time. All right, so really fun way to tackle this today. We're just going to start, and one of those little symbols is going to represent one tidy up task. So the first one is to set 1 or 2 money goals or financial focus areas. When we talk about money goals, I'm going to give some examples. I think it makes it a little bit easier because sometimes, when you ask someone, what's your goal for your money? It's something that's very broad, kind of seems unreasonable, like, oh, I want to be rich, maybe. Or, it really helps if you're going to sit down and come up with some money goals to make them specific, to try to make them measurable, attainable. You want them to be focused on a certain amount of time, and you want them to be reasonable, right? If anyone has heard of the SMART goal, those are some good tips to keep in mind as you're setting goals. And these are not perfect, but here are some examples of setting a goal over a certain amount of time. In the next 12 months, I will have paid off the balance on this specific credit card, and I will not have made any additional purchases. Okay, that's a pretty specific goal. It's about one specific credit card. You set a time, and that's a really nice goal to have. You could even go farther and say, by making an extra payment of this much every month. And that may not be reasonable for you. There are several things in here that you're going to say, that doesn't fit for me right now. But it's all about looking at your own financial life and saying, okay, what are some things I really want to focus on coming up? One of the ones that's been on my mind recently is estate planning and like will planning. I have 2 daughters who are 1 and 3, and it's never something that you want to sit down and do. Not super fun to think about, but that's a goal I have. Our financial focus area is to get that set up so that everything is, taken care of in the event it would be needed. Some other examples here. So maybe by January of 2022, I will have $1,000 saved for an emergency. Imagine how empowering that would feel if you're someone who right now does not have anything saved for an emergency. Like, I believe it's 60% of Americans would not be able to afford a $400 or $500 emergency. They would have to put it on a credit card. So having that goal of just getting to that $1,000 is absolutely amazing. Think about how good that would feel for the next time an unexpected cost does come up. Another one, cut my expenses by $150 a month. Now that's a job in and of itself, but put half towards saving up for a vacation, if we ever get to go on vacations again, and the other half towards maybe a charitable organization. So you can see there's a couple more on here, but if you take 10 minutes and you think about what you want your money to do for you and what you don't want, usually you can come up with a focus area like mine, which is kind of like writing a will for my kids, or a money goal, like a specific amount going to something or so on. So that's our first 10-minute tidy up task. Next one, let's get digital. Have to try really hard not to sing that right now, but if you don't have online banking set up for every single related financial institution that you have, you should. If you only have one financial institution, especially if you're with Copper State, then that's awesome. That makes your life a lot easier when it comes to this tidy up task. But really, the reason that we recommend doing it is some people, they log in once or they set it up and then they don't check it, and they maybe forget their password or don't remember the username or whatever. And that means they're not monitoring, perhaps, they're not monitoring the account very often. Whereas if you get set up in online banking, and even going a step further later, talking about the app, that means that you are going to be able to monitor that account more easily, and it can help prevent fraud. It's one of the ways. So if you've never signed up, there's usually on the website of the institution. And when I say financial institution, I'm saying think about anywhere that you have money, anywhere that you owe money. So everything from your health savings account to where your checking account is and your direct deposit goes, which is hopefully with us, right? To your credit cards, to everything, your mortgage, your auto loan. We have a lot of financial products. And yes, it is definitely easier to have it all in one place. But if you don't, get logged in or enrolled for online banking. Click that forgot password button. Yes, it's annoying to have to go through the whole song and dance, but I will say, as someone who has done this, if you do all of your forget passwords at once, it's not as hard. You just get them all out of the way in 10 minutes, right? And kind of along with this, for top security, get a password manager. I know it does not sound fun. Maybe I should have made this its own task, but I did make it its own task. But if you get a password manager, that is a secure way to store your passwords. I know there are people who are using a Word document to store their passwords, and that is every hacker's dream, right? Is to find a Word document full of passwords. Same with like a physical notebook. So really, there are secure password managers out there. Some of them are free, and it's worth looking into. I tend to forget this, but please ask questions as we go. I know that it's hard to remember the question you had at the beginning, so type them into the Q&A box as we're going, and I can get to them at the end. Yeah, so please ask questions. Yeah, download your bank's app. Make sure that you've got that. That's going to be really helpful. And yeah, that's the digital. Let's get digital. Super important and helpful. It shouldn't take too long. All right, this next one, I kind of, as I said, I kind of started and gave it away a little bit, but security checkpoint. I want to talk about passwords and unused accounts. So specifically about passwords, when you're doing this previous, work of getting logged in or getting enrolled in all of your online banking portals, don't reuse passwords. I know it's tempting. Don't do it. If that password is exposed on one site, all of the places you use it are now vulnerable. You hear about all of the data breaches and all of that stuff. Using a different password for every site helps to solve that problem. And I know it's impossible to memorize that many passwords, which is why I recommend a password manager. You can save them securely. One that I use, it's obviously not sponsored or anything, but there's several you can use. I use LastPass. But do your research and find one that's a good fit for you, whether it's free or paid. Don't repeat passwords. Don't use common words and phrases. Don't use your pet's name or your kid's name. Symbols, numbers. I know it makes it harder to remember, but really, if anything you want to keep secure, it's going to be your finances and your financial login information, right? So that's definitely something I would say is its own 10-minute task, right? Security checkpoint, get a password manager. And then the other part of that is to pay attention to any unused accounts that you have. So, it's the way it works is if an account is dormant for a certain amount of time, it actually gets escheated or turned over to the state. So you could look up and see if you have any old accounts that maybe have gotten transferred over, and you could claim those funds. But if it hasn't been that long, obviously you still have that at an institution. If you don't have regular access and monitor the account, I'd say at least once a month, you may want to consider closing some accounts or consolidating some accounts. Now, let me say, you don't have to do this, but just think about if something is unused and you don't look at it, you look at it once every 2 years, you make a transfer to keep it active or something. Something could happen with that account that's fraudulent and you wouldn't know. And the thing with fraud and identity theft is you have to catch it early, right? So that's something that I would recommend is if it's unused, if it's not being monitored, if you have 4 checking accounts, there's only one where the direct deposit is going into, right? Or maybe 2. You probably want to consolidate. It's just an option, something you could think about. Is that passwords, checking on those passwords, and then thinking about unused accounts and maybe getting the ball rolling into, closing out some of those. A note on that though is you may not want to close credit card accounts if you've had them for a while, if you've had them for a few years or more, because that could affect your credit report and your credit score. Or if you've paid off a large amount on a specific loan or credit card, you may not want to completely close it. Just make sure you're keeping an eye on it if you're going to keep it open. All right. Next one, store statements. Don't we always intend to download our bank statements every month if we have e-statements and, put them in a little folder or get them in the mail and file them? Sit down and do it now. If you ever have need of these, you are going to be so happy that you took 10 minutes and you sat down and you picked your statements and you organized them away, once a year, right? They are needed for a variety of things. If you buy a house, you'll need some statements. For tax purposes, sometimes you will. So having those available and actually just getting them put away and organized, that's a 10-minute task that you probably will be really glad that you did if you ever need it. And if you don't need it, great, but at least you have it. Feel a little bit more organized, get some of those spring cleaning vibes in there, right? So interesting fact, our team was curious at how long it would take to actually get to your e-statement or your electronic statement in your online banking, because that is where you get it, by the way. If you enroll in e-statements, it's not like it gets emailed to you. That wouldn't be secure enough. You get an email notification that your statement's ready. You log into online banking and go in and get the e-statement from the accounts tab. But our team tested it and found that enrolling in e-statements with Copper State took 1 minute and 4 seconds on a computer. And to get a recent statement downloaded, if you're already enrolled and already signed up for e-statements, from login to having the statement stored in a folder took about 56 seconds. Now, obviously, we know where it is, so it's going to be a little faster. But once you know where it is, it'll be that fast for you as well, hopefully. So there we go. Store statements. That is our next 10-minute segment. And our last one that takes 10 minutes, if you were one of those 10-minute people on the survey saying, that's all I want today, Christina, I just want something I can do in 10 minutes and then I'm done. Get your free credit report. Disclaimer, it will not take you 10 minutes to read the whole thing because you get 3 different versions from all 3 credit bureaus, Experian, I'm not going to be able to think of them now, but all 3 credit bureaus, you will get your full report from, and you get it for free every year. I think even with COVID, they're making it like weekly or monthly, a lot more often, but in normal times, you can get your free credit report once every year. And I think it's annualcreditreport.com. Alex, if you wouldn't mind sharing that link. And the reason I shared that is because, like I said, it comes from all 3 credit bureaus, and it is a comprehensive, oh my goodness, it could be dozens of pages long for each one. So that's something you want to do once a year, but that's not really manageable to look at something like that every, month. Well, first of all, in normal times, you only get it for free once a year, but you probably want to look at your credit more than once a year. So this part takes probably, I think you put in a few informational fields. It definitely takes like less than 5 minutes, I would say, to do this. But then on an ongoing basis, you can also sign up with your credit union. So not every credit union has this, but Copper State does. In your online banking, you can sign up for to get your free credit score. And it's just a little module that sits on the side of your online banking portal, gives you your score, daily updates on your score, gives you reporting information, tracking. It will actually notify you if you have like an opportunity where you could save some money on a certain rate that you're paying. It is so cool, and it's completely free within online banking. So that's a really easy option for like ongoing, whereas this annualcreditreport.com, I would say, is probably more of like a once a year thing. And the reason you do that is to make sure that there are no errors on your report, and to make sure there's nothing on there that you didn't realize that may be affecting your score. Awesome. All right. I think this is our last 10-minute topic. Clean out your real life wallet. Now, maybe nobody else has this problem. Maybe it's just me. I'm not going to pull out my wallet and show you because it's not pretty. We tend to collect stuff in there, but think about some valuable items that you might have in there. You may have some gift cards hidden in there. You may have some coins that you could put into a coin machine and get, a free drink or something out of it. They do those coin machines now that you can get a gift card, or at your local credit union, you may have a coin machine. So cleaning out your real life wallet, we should be doing it more than once a year, but like I said, maybe this is just a reminder for myself, and all of you actually have clean wallets. Receipts could be in there, which might help you if you need returns, or if you're trying to do budgeting, or like those apps that will pay you for certain items you buy, but you have to have a picture of the receipt. I think Ibotta is one of them. So anyway, clean out your real life wallet. It'll take less than 10 minutes and you'll feel so much better until you make it a mess again, like me. Okay, we made it through the 10-minute section. Now we are on to budget tidy-ups in 30 minutes or less. So let's check it out. And this apparently was most of you. Most of you were interested in the 30-minute task. So let's see what it is. Oh, this is a big one. Check in on subscriptions. I should have Alex come on and tell a story about her recent subscription, but I won't make you do that, Alex. So what we have found is it is so easy to subscribe to things on your phone, on Amazon, on your smart TV. There are so many ways to start with a free trial, and then that trial conveniently continues. So check in on these, and sometimes you don't even remember that they're there. There are actually apps that will look at your subscriptions for you and like try to cancel them for you. The one I'm thinking of right now is called Trim, but that does have a fee. And it can't cancel everything. Like it can't cancel your gym membership for you, for example. Not that I know that from personal experience or anything, that it can't cancel your gym membership. Anyway, check in on your subscriptions. You don't have to have Trim do it for you. You can actually go into, at least on an Apple iPhone, it's in settings and then Apple ID. For those of you on Android, I'm assuming it is somewhere in the Google Play section. Maybe if somebody who's listening today has an Android, you could go ahead and set that in the Q&A or in the chat and we can share it. I've never been an Android person. But there are also subscriptions in Amazon. If you have an Amazon account, you have to go up to your account and go to your subscriptions and you'll be able to view them. And from there, it's not that hard to cancel, but it's just getting there and remembering in the moment, okay, let me take 20 minutes and look at every single subscription I have and ask myself, am I still using this, right? Am I using Hulu? Am I using Disney Plus? Am I using Netflix? Am I using 15 other video services? Or am I only using 3 of them, right? Of course, that's just an example, but checking in on subscriptions, obviously, if they've made an entire app that does this for you, it's something that can save you money, for sure. So I definitely recommend, if that's a good one. Like, I know that you guys listening are not going to be doing all of these, right? You're not going to do 15 different things for budget tidy up, but if you pick 1 or 2, that's awesome. And if this is the one you choose, kudos, because it's definitely not something we always think about, but it will save you money if you take the time to do it. All right. Probably for the least fun one of all, but I love talking about this, adjusting your tax withholding. So your tax withholding is set up on your W-4 form, I believe, and basically the little instructions that you follow, you put in numbers, 1s and 0s, and etc. And what this does is it lets your employer or whatever know how much money to hold from your paycheck for taxes. This is a very simple definition. Please, understand that I am not a tax professional. But what I like to mention is, really, did you get a refund this year, or are you due to get a refund? If so, think about that amount of money and think about if it would have been helpful for your budget to have that amount of money spread out over 12 months. For example, somebody gets $2,400 for their tax refund. That's $200 a month extra that they could have kept and utilized in their budget and had in that cash flow if they adjust the withholding rate. And you can talk to like your accountant about this, get some advice from an actual tax expert. But it's just something worth considering, because if you have $2,400 in a lump sum in March or April or May, it is so tempting, to just buy something fun with it or go on a vacation. And if you had it spread out over the year, you might be thinking, well, I could, pay off this debt with an extra $100 a month, or I could save up for the holidays over, $200 a month, whatever the case may be. It's really helpful to have that in your cash flow monthly. Now, if you want to stick with your refund, I totally get it. But it's just something to think about. The opposite is also true. So if you owed $1,800 in taxes on your last tax return, that's $150 a month. That's a lot easier to fork out $150 a month than almost $2,000 when tax season comes around. And that may be particularly helpful for small businesses and those who are self-employed to be doing your quarterly estimated taxes, because you get that bill at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year. It's not fun. All right, so that's something to think about, adjusting your tax withholding, and it's just a form that you would fill out with your employer. You can redo it at any time. All right, next one, take about 30 minutes or so. Automate savings. So direct transfer between accounts is available, I want to say, pretty much from all financial institutions. Almost every bank and credit union is going to have a way for you to move money from one account to the other pretty much automatically. Usually there's a recurring option, and if it's internal, like if it's a Copper State Credit Union checking to savings, that is super easy, super fast. But most also have an option to set up external accounts. When I learned this, it was really helpful to me. If you have a savings account at one institution and a checking account at another institution, you can move money electronically in between those two. And maybe everybody already knows that. A little while ago, I didn't know that, and it was really helpful. Once I set it up, it's usually called something like external transfer or similar, but you do have to provide the routing and account number, and you do have to be the owner on both accounts. And there's usually a process where there's some trial deposits that you have to confirm just to make sure it's real. It's a real account and it's your account. So what you could do with that tool that I'm talking about is automate your savings. And I recommend doing that on payday. You probably have the same payday, whether it's a fixed income, Social Security, pension, your actual paycheck from an employer, a spouse's income. There's probably a certain day when money is coming in, and it's pretty regular. Not for everybody, but somewhat. Automate that savings, whatever goal you're saving up for from the beginning, or even if it's just for an emergency, make that automatic and make it go out on the day you get paid. Why? Because paying yourself first, yourself being your future you and your savings, is happening right at the beginning before it has a chance to be spent a myriad of other places, like Target, for example. Another thing that you can do that's helpful kind of in regards to savings is setting up a cushion amount in your checking. Now, if you are working on a budget, we have tons of resources for you on how to create a monthly budget that works. Maybe Alex can find that link and send that over to you in chat. We have a free ebook you can download on that, on creating a budget. We also have a template you can use. It's a budgeting Excel template that you can download and edit to meet your needs. But when you are budgeting, it's kind of tricky because sometimes the water bill and the electric bill and the cable bill and the cell phone bill are all due on the same day, and it's before your next paycheck. It's 2 days before your next paycheck, right? So when that happens, it can be kind of tricky to make your budget work. So that's why setting up a cushion amount in your checking account an extra couple $100, leaving it in there, pretending it's not there, right? Pretending that a balance of 400 is actually zero. That could help you have a cushion in there just in case that overlap happens where all your bills are due and you don't have that paycheck coming in yet. So another thing that you could do for savings is to designate an account for an emergency savings and putting it in a separate place where you don't see it as often. But Copper State Credit Union does a really nice job with this because they allow you to hide. Certain accounts on online banking. So you could actually have it with Copper State, but you still wouldn't, you would have it with Copper State, but you wouldn't see it every day. So it's almost still hidden, right? So just a couple of different ideas for savings. And the emergency savings is, you're going to hear a lot of people say, oh, you need to have 6 months worth of income or 6 months worth of expenses. That is a lot of money. That is overwhelming if you have $0 in your savings account. I will tell you that. That's overwhelming. So instead, start with something that's reasonable, right? What do you think you can put aside per month to put money into a jar, just like this one? No, it doesn't need to be cash. Transfer it over to a savings account for an emergency. Whatever that amount is, set a goal and then try to reach it by a certain date. It is going to feel so good to have that. And then once you reach the first goal, it's so empowering that you're ready to kind of bump up the goal to the next level. And you just keep bumping it up until you reach a point where you feel comfortable with the amount that's in your savings. All right. Another 30-minute is to plan for irregular expenses. This is the trickiest part of budgeting, I think, because we tend to say, oh, every month, how much do you spend on groceries? Or every month, how much do you spend on childcare or clothing or whatever? But in reality, some expenses are not happening monthly. So what's really helpful to do is to think of, and don't get overwhelmed with this, but start with 1 or 2 things that you know are big expenses and they happen once a year or twice a year. For example, paying your registration fee for your car, holidays, maybe tires for your vehicle, going on a vacation. Take something like that and think about how much it's going to cost, or estimate how much it's going to cost, and then divide that by the number of months that you have until that thing is going to happen. See if you can set aside some funds for that ahead of time so that you don't have to go into debt when it happens. Now, I know this is not realistic for every single situation. It's not realistic for every single person. But if this is something where you feel like you're ready for this, you maybe have somewhat of a workable budget on a monthly basis, but then when those other random things come up, you're always scrambling. This is a really nice task to take 30 minutes, and you're gonna have to sit down and look and think about what comes up randomly that I never planned for. Oh yeah, there's that yearly fee for the gym membership, and it's $150 a year and I never remember it. Maybe that's something that you could work into the monthly budget, right? And kind of put aside $10 a month instead of waiting for that big one to come at the end. All right, so next one. This is fun for some people. A lot of people really enjoy shredding. Shredding all of your documents, making sure that anything that you don't need anymore that has sensitive information is shredded. Pretty self-explanatory, but if you have a lot of old documents, it could take a while. There's a really good article on Her Money that tells what documents you need to save, to keep, and to toss. when it comes to like taxes. So a very short version, keep receipts until you get the monthly statement. This is according to hermoney.com. Keep credit card or bank statements until you get the year-end summary, and hang on to insurance policies until you get new ones. Keep anything tax related for 3 years, and paperwork related to like homes and cars and investments as long as you have them. Yeah, so they give a lot of good information if you want to look up that article on Her Money. It talks about documents and what you need to save and for how long. All right, we're almost done, but this is the part where I say, yeah, these are going to take a while, but they're really worth it if you're willing to put in the time. So one of them, I have a friend who did this recently, and she told me it took a few hours and it was hard, but it was so worth it. You know, the problem we talked about earlier with having your due dates like at the wrong time and you don't have your paycheck yet. This is where you would actually call credit card companies and try to get the due dates where you want them to line up with your paycheck, making sure that you have enough money from your income to pay the bills when they come due, and changing around the due dates as you need to. Depending on how many bills and stuff you have, this could take quite a while, and you may not be able to change every single due date, but you can probably change quite a few. And if you got this done, it would make your budgeting life so much easier. See, very easy to say, but take a while to do. That's what all of these are at the end. The next one is a debt checkup. So this is where I'm going to point you directly to our website, to our Get Out of Debt bundle. If you have multiple debts, if you feel like you have a lot of debt and you want to take a look at it and see what can be done, our Get Out of Debt bundle in our resource center is really helpful. It has worksheets that you can download and use, and try to use strategies just at home on your own to pay off your debt. So that is something that'll definitely take a few hours, but man, if you can get ahead of your debt, it is so exciting. I know I'm just right on the verge of our time here, but another thing you can do, which will take a while, but is setting up a retirement savings account if you don't have one, or increasing it. So looking at that, looking at where you are, meeting with a financial planner, potentially a financial advisor. We partner with Copper State Wealth Management, so you can always talk to them. Their initial meeting is always free. They want to just take a look at your finances. And best for last, estate planning. This is what I mentioned I needed to do. Not fun to think about. Certainly something that takes a while, but get some help, get some legal advice to help you with that, setting up a will or a trust. And that is another thing you could do for budget tidy up tasks and getting some spring cleaning done, or whatever season you happen to be in. If you end up doing some of these things more than once a year, we certainly will not tell. If you have any questions for me at this point, I would love if you send them over. I will take a look and see if anybody sent over any so far. Go ahead and type those questions in for me if you have them. In the meantime, I will just share with you, we do have a survey. We would love for you to take the survey. Let us know how you liked it, how we did in our webinar today. And when you do that survey, you get a 10-day budget cleanup checklist. This is where I took some of my favorite ideas from here, plus some other ones that you didn't hear about today, and I put it into a 10-day, almost like a challenge, where there's one thing you do each day for 10 days, and at the end you feel so much more financially, I guess, tidied up. So I don't see any questions coming through, so I guess I will go ahead and close us up for right now. Thank you so much for joining us. And my name is Christina Credit, and I'm always Happy to be hanging out with you guys. Have a wonderful evening.